Hey guys, what is up? It is Alex or Black Eye here, and it's been a while since I've said that. If you understand where that came from, I fucking love you, but... And this is Editor Black Eye. This was a very long video I had to make. I might have missed a couple points that I wanted to include, so if you just see the screen freeze and then I start talking, that is because I wanted to include something that I thought was important, and I didn't want to re-record the entire video or particular segments. You're not going to see this that much, but just in case the screen does freeze and you hear me start talking, that's just because I missed something that I wanted to either elaborate on or just throw out there. Also, I recorded this video in January when I was an Olympian. I planned on releasing this much earlier, but I sent it to like 3 different high-res employees to review to make sure I didn't say anything that I couldn't. And it took a while for them to get back, and I quite literally just forgot. So if you hear me mentioning like things in the present time, just remember that this was recorded in January when I was still an Olympian. But 99.999% of the information is still applicable to the video. So, or to the discussion that I'm... Holy fuck. To the goddamn topics at hand. The video is still applicable to the topics. The information is still accurate. Just keep that in mind. Today, I just wanted to make a video. I've seen a lot of comments on Reddit, on Twitter, hell, even on Facebook. I never go on Facebook, but I have seen some there that just aren't really sure about what the Olympian program is or what specifically they do. Most people have a general idea of what they do, but nobody's really gone into specifics, and even sometimes Hi-Res has used vague wording. I'm going to be advertising this video on a bunch of social medias outside of my following, so some people watching this might not know who I am. So I'm just going to go give a brief introduction to myself, but my name's Alex. A lot of people call me Alex, a lot of people call me Black Eye, a lot of people call me Black Eye because the L in my name is actually an I. It's just a meme. I've been playing SMITE since the Xbox Open Beta back in 2015, and I've used a controller ever since. I switched to PC back in what year is it now? Holy fuck, it's 2022. I switched to a PC mid 2021, but I still use a controller. It's just my preference. I make short meme content. I live stream. I also am a small game show host. I like making game shows, specifically a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire parody and a Jeopardy parody, but I make it SMITE specific. I really enjoy the competitive aspect of SMITE. I love ranked, both console and PC ranked. On console, I've been Grandmasters multiple times, and on PC, I actually do use a controller in the PC ranked queues, which yes, is possible. In PC ranked, I've hit Masters pretty much ever since I started playing with a controller on PC ranked, and the highest MMR I've gotten to was 3,000. As I said previously, I've been an Olympian for 2 years. I was the Xbox Conquest-focused Olympian. I'm not running again in 2022. It's just a lot of personal stuff going on right now, and I want to focus solely on myself in the year 2022. So I'm not running again, but I do have 2 years of experience under my belt. And I guess lastly, I've been invited the past 2 years in some form of, in some form of like high-res SMITE World Championship panel. In 2020, I was in a trivia panel with Flair Boot. That was a lot of fun. And this year, I was part of the Content Creator Cup. Okay, so enough about me. But before I go any further, I know that there are a lot of people that don't like me. I know that in this video, I'm going to say things that people will disagree with. And all that I'm asking for is that if you are just going to blindly just hate on what I say in the video, I'll explain more later, then just don't watch. And I'm willing to listen to comments, criticism, if you're willing to listen to my side of that as well. But again, I know this is to like explain what the Olympian program is, but I wanted to go over some other things, give my opinion on some other things, but that's more later in the video. So, okay, I have a brief outline. So if you see me like look to the side, I'm looking at the outline, but so the first thing I wanted to go over was actually what's on the front page of when you Google like SMITE Olympians, like what shows up. And it gives an expectations, like a 3 bullet points of what Olympian members are expected to do. And it's pretty vague language, so I wanted to break each one down. So the first bullet point is regular communications with the player community and the game's development team. And a lot of people just don't know what that means. Like, what does this actually mean? So I guess we'll go point by point. So regular communication with the player community and the game's development team. Actually, we'll go with the second one, the game's development team. So regular communication with the game's development team. So what this means is that there is a Discord server. It has like 30 high-res employees and then all of the Olympians. And then this Discord server is set up to have feedback channels. So I'm not going to show it because under NDA, but I'm just going to go over each channel and what each one means. So I also want to point out that there is also an Olympian alumni Discord, which is essentially where all the ex-Olympians go, and it is the exact same format as the current Olympian Discord. It is just not as active for obvious reasons. So when I say something like I've been talking about this, I'm probably referring to the alumni Discord, as I'm not an Olympian anymore. The first one is just like, or the first two are just what every single Discord server has. So announcements and then general. So, you know, announcements are when they're announcing like events or when meetings are, which I'll go into later. Just like anything that we should know about goes into announcements. Only high-res employees can type there. General, I shouldn't have to explain what general is. We can just talk about anything and everything in general. It doesn't even have to be SMITE related. Game balance. This one's pretty obvious. Game balance feedback. We literally just forward feedback that has to do with balance of the game. So I still don't know why Jotun's is 2200 gold. So I've talked about that a lot in the game balance feedback recently. Now this next one's going to take a little bit of explaining. Game systems feedback. So what game systems feedback is, it's kind of hard to explain. It's more of like the overall concepts in SMITE, or like the systems that make SMITE what it is. So an example of this would be clans. So if we had feedback about clans as a whole, it'd go in game systems. Another one would be matchmaking. If we had feedback about matchmaking, then it would go in game systems. Something that I've been talking about in game systems a lot this year is God borders and how unfair they seem. So that would go in game systems as well. Next one is content feedback. That's just anything skins or content related from other people, from high-res, and we can talk about it here. It's mainly just us passing along skin ideas that we really like, or just issues with current skins in the game that we think need to be changed. It's not necessarily a bug, just like something about the skin that's annoying. So for example, some skins seem too quiet. We would throw that in content feedback. Or game balance, it's arguable, but you know, they're not super strict on it. Quality of life discussions. So quality of life, just how can we like improve SMITE from a like not balanced perspective? Because quality of life is kind of a difficult term, because technically if something is made easier for you, it's quality of life, but not every thing that's made easier for you is quality of life, if that makes sense. I guess the best way to describe it would be an example. Way back when, and by way back, I don't know why I'm saying way back when, like it was like fucking ages ago. Earlier in the year 2021 on Rama, if you dashed, you got a cripple arrow and you couldn't cancel it. So a quality of life change they made was to be able to cancel the cripple arrow using the B button on if you used a controller, or I think the right mouse button. So that would be a quality of life change. Another one that was pitched this year was a counter on AMC at like the bottom of the screen that showed how many hives you have up. So not strictly a buff, but just something that makes playing the game slightly easier. I didn't mention this, but quality of life also includes a lot of UI pitches or user interface feedback. All right, next one, player experience feedback. And I'm on this one a lot, I feel like. So this one is just feedback for anything relating to community management, customer support, just anything like that. So the most common thing that I get that would be thrown in here is like, hey, Hi-Res didn't respond to my support ticket. And then I'll go in here, I'll be like, hey, what gives? Is it just super busy? Or like, what's going on? Why aren't people getting responses to it? Just stuff like that. And then also, you know, we can talk about improving the support system, or like give our ideas about what we think support could be doing better to make the players' lives easier, or just like better in general. There's also community management stuff in here as well, but it's mainly focused on the support system. Esports feedback, fairly obvious. Just anything relating to esports. So SPL, broadcast, esports social media, just any feedback we have on those, we throw in esports feedback. It's also worth noting that for esports, the general design or development team that you guys know really don't have that much control over what goes on with esports. That's an entirely different team. Bugs, self-explanatory. We just report bugs here. They update us sometimes. Actually, I don't know why I said sometimes. Most of the time they update us on it, like, hey, we already know about this, or like, oh, cool, thanks for bringing this up. And then, you know, sometimes if it gets fixed, they'll respond to us again and be like, hey, I know you reported this. It's getting fixed next patch. Dope. Player reports, I am going to briefly gloss over this and then talk about it later, but I don't think it's no secret that Olympians will get DMs about extremely toxic people in other people's games, and they want us to forward the report. This is the channel we do that in. Again, I'm going to talk about this later. There's a lot to be said about this because this is one of the main things people are confused about when it comes to what Olympians do. So I'm going to hold off on that for now, but that channel does exist. And then the last two are just like get to know you type stuff. There's share your Twitter, which at the very beginning of every single Olympian year, we all just throw our Twitters in here. We all follow each other. It's happy time. And then looking for group, a lot of Discords have this. If you want to find a group to play with, we'll throw it in there. But we don't really use this. It quite literally just boiled down to sharing a JPEG of a fish with a sad face on it, more like an angry face. And then we'll just at somebody randomly in the Discord and we'll pass the fish to them. I'm not joking. This is my favorite channel. And then we have two voice channels, which is just general, which is just, you know, we talk whenever, if people want to talk about something, and the meeting room, which is where we have our monthly meetings. So that is what it, so that was a very long description for regular communications with the game's development team. Now there's a second part to this, regular communication with the player community. Now, how do Olympians get feedback from the community? And this varies from Olympian to Olympian. Me personally, I am big into Twitter. I get 99.9% of my feedback from Twitter. A lot of people know like where to go on Twitter if they want feedback. People at me in posts, people DM me, as well as sometimes I'll just tweet out like, hey, what feedback do you want me to forward? Stuff like that. That's more towards meetings, but occasionally I'll do it outside of meetings just because I'm curious about a specific topic or something. And again, this varies from Olympian to Olympian. I know SavvySor is bigger into Reddit than other Olympians, so he's on Reddit more. He gets his feedback from both Reddit and Twitter. Some people do Facebook. Actually, I'm not really sure if anybody utilizes Facebook, but Facebook is big. So that would be another outlet. So, yep, it's just like, hey, what feedback do we think is worth passing along to the development team? And again, I know that's going to sound controversial because like, oh, well, why do you get to pick what feedback is worth bringing back? And this is just where you have to understand that it's impossible to go through every single piece of feedback and forward every single one and just have that be an efficient way of going through feedback. So for example, there are some meetings where I will tweet about like, hey, Olympian meeting coming up, give me your feedback, and I get 150 comments. I can't forward 150 comments for one meeting. It would take 50 hours to go through each one and talk about why it would or wouldn't happen. So yes, it is up to us about what we deem worthy of forwarding and what we deem not worthy of forwarding. I will probably go into this later, but yeah. And now the last thing I want to talk about is some people have asked what's the best way to contact an Olympian. Pretty much every single Olympian will have a Twitter and will have their DMs open. I don't see why people wouldn't. The best way to personally contact me is to just DM me. I don't like when people tweet at me, not to have an ego, but I really do get a lot of Twitter notifications. So it just sometimes gets lost in the fray of Twitter noties. But if you DM an Olympian that has a Twitter, which actually all of them do, then 99.9% of the time they'll respond. So we're also in a bunch of Discords. We're in the official SMITE Discord. I'm in the official SMITE Discord and r/SMITE. You can find me in there. I have a little special role under Olympians, as most of the others do as well. You can contact them via Discord as well. Okay, the second bullet point, regular remote council meetings to discuss community feedback and game development. So again, I've said this before, but I'm pretty sure it's no secret that we have monthly meetings and we just talk about things, but more in depth. And something I should have emphasized earlier is that we can forward feedback at any point in the day. I literally talk to developers every single day. But these meetings are more of like, okay, we're going to sit down for an hour, hour and a half, and like talk back and forth in depth about the changes we want to see. And the points we bring to these meetings, and as I said earlier, we can't bring every single piece of feedback. That's just ridiculous. We'd be sitting there for 50 hours. So first we need to get the feedback. So the way I do it is I quite literally just tweet, hey guys, meeting in a few days. What do you guys want to hear me talk about? And then I pick 2 to 4 things that I think are worth talking about, and I write it down. And to give an example, I'm actually going to go into the last meeting notes and give an example. So these weren't all of the things I brought, but just to give an example, 2 of the things I brought to the last meeting, which was early December, I think, either mid or early December. One of the points I brought up was, hey guys, solo lane's kind of boring. It's the same fucking build every time. So let's nerf Warax and buff Bluestone. Thoughts? And then we talked about it. Another point I brought up was that the banning system in ranked, this was after the changes, and my suggestion, which actually a lot of people agreed with, was to do something about the planning phase, because from my experience, nobody used it. So we just talked about the best way to go about, tweaking the ranked system, or the banning phase in the ranked system, or P's and B's, tweaking P's and B's to try to get the best of both worlds of what they're trying to accomplish. And again, I'm going to say this a lot, but every Olympian's different. Some of the Olympians actually go through my Twitter threads and get their own feedback, which I don't blame them. Again, my tweets sometimes garner over 150 comments. And if I'm being realistic, I'd say that if I get 100 comments, only like 7 to 8 of them are actually like good enough feedback that warrants a discussion. So a lot of people will comment bugs, which I just forward anyway. A lot of people just comment things that I know will never happen, like all chat and SMITE. They've said multiple times that all chat will never happen in SMITE, so like I disregard those comments. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff to go through, man. Other Olympians, like I know Savvy, he goes to Reddit a lot. So again, it just varies from person to person. So we submit our talking points through a Google form, and then it gets like organized into little sections, so the meeting has like more of a nice flow to it. So for example, if we have like 5 god change suggestions, like buffs and nerfs, or hell, even reworks, then it gets thrown into one category and we talk about all of those one by one. Then it goes on to the next category and the next, etc. So like gods would be one category, items would be another, just, gameplay stuff, whatever, you get the point. And again, this is where we really sit down and talk about it. It's not just like typing on a keyboard to each other. Like, we are in a Discord call talking with people that code the game. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of these feedback points, while a lot of them do help the game, some of them don't, and that's completely fine. And I'm going to talk about this more in depth later, but one of the things about being an Olympian is you have to be okay with them disagreeing with you. You have to be able to see both sides. If they're respectful enough to see your side, you have to be respectful enough to see their side. So, and then lastly, at the meetings, sometimes, actually most of the time, they show us like minor spoilers for the next patch, which is always fun. But also, don't ask Olympians about what was spoiled. We're under NDA. Please don't harass people about like, hey, do you know what's going on with this? Or like, this was leaked on Twitter. Do you know anything about this? Like, all that's going to do is put us in an awkward spot. Please don't ask us about that stuff. Okay, the last bullet point. Scheduled remote summit sessions where council members will provide focused feedback on long-term plans for several different aspects of SMITE and its development. So, first part's fairly simple. Once a year, these are actually supposed to be in person, but COVID kind of fucked us, so they're online. But they basically, when COVID isn't a thing, they fly everybody down to the studio and we have meetings all day for 2 days or 3. I'm not sure. I got fucked by COVID twice in a row, so I wouldn't know. But the meetings are just very, very focused on specific aspects of SMITE, and it's focused on how can we improve the long-term health of the game. So, for example, one of the meetings we had was about SMITE as a brand. Like, what do the players want to see SMITE as? What's the best way for SMITE to market itself as a brand? Another one we had was about art. So we just talked about the art style moving forward. We talked about popular skin concepts, stuff like that. Okay, so now that I've talked about expectations, I wanted to talk about some topics that I thought of. And again, one of the most common things that new people wanting to be an Olympian ask is like, what's your everyday lifestyle like, before and after being an Olympian? So again, I'm going to say this a lot. Every Olympian's different. For me personally, I spend probably 20 to 30 minutes a day just going through feedback I get every single day. I get a lot of DMs about Olympian related stuff. So I probably spend 20 to 30 minutes just going through DMs, talking to people, responding to people, as well as talking in the Olympian Discord, forwarding feedback, or just having conversations about what the fuck ever. Again, that's different for everybody. That's not really a requirement. It's just something I like to do because I actually really care about the game. I want to succeed. And it's not saying that people that don't do that don't care about the game or don't want them to succeed. Because, again, everybody has different following. I'm sure if you took somebody with less of a following than I have, they're going to get less DMs, and therefore they don't have to spend as much time responding to it. It's not because they don't care about the game. It's just because we're in different circumstances. So in terms of what we do on a daily basis, it's just what you make of it. You know, if I have more free time on one day than the other, I am probably going to spend more time just like talking to people, forwarding feedback, just because, you know, I enjoy doing it. If I'm busy, like I remember I had a wedding that I had to fly to California for. I'm currently on the East Coast. I don't think I checked my DMs for 3 days straight. So it's just what you make of it. It honestly is. So while yes, some people might see it as better to have more free time for an Olympian, it's like 100% not required at all, you know? So just take whatever you want with that. Take whatever you want with that information. I probably fucked up that sentence, but you guys get the idea. Okay, the controversial one, player reports. Before going into reports, I just want to throw out there that there is now a player report section on the support ticket. So if you file a support ticket, there is now a section where you can quite literally select an option to report a player. So I'm not on the Olympian Council for 2022, but from what I've noticed, a lot of people have been opting to advertise the support ticket system instead of having Olympians directly forward reports. The report/support system has changed pretty drastically. There's even now a live chat feature, which a lot of people don't even know about. So I promise you guys, the report and support system isn't the same that it was a year or two ago. It's completely changed, and it's gotten so much better. So I said I'd talk about this, so earlier I said I would talk about this, and this is that section. So again, no surprise, Olympians get DMs about toxic players, and they want us to forward the report to high-res to have them then handle it. But what does this actually mean? So again, there's a channel in the Discord where we throw this in, and there are members from the support team that do look at that and then use their own judgment on it. This is essentially the exact same thing as a support ticket. When we forward a toxic player to this Discord channel, again, it's the literal exact same thing as somebody filing a support ticket with the same information. But before I go any further, I want to really emphasize that this shouldn't be the primary way of reporting somebody. 100%, the most important thing is using the in-game report system. If it's used correctly, it'll improve itself. That's just how it's set up. And I understand a lot of people have lost faith in the report system, but people losing faith in the report system and then not using it is directly making things worse. So it's kind of like, I don't know what the correct term is. Double-edged sword? Not really a double-edged sword, but it's just kind of ironic, I guess, that people that try to substitute using the report system with support tickets or bring it to an Olympian are actively like hurting it in a sense, because it's extremely important. I can't emphasize how important it is to use the report system. Actively hurts was the wrong word choice. It doesn't necessarily like hurt it, but it definitely doesn't help. And also, it just kind of takes somewhat of a toll. For me personally, I'm kind of an emotional person. It's just really depressing, man, seeing like what player A told player B to kill themselves, or player A told player B that he was an N-word or an F-slur or like whatever. And it's just frustrating to get bombarded with that stuff. So again, I completely understand. I forward multiple of these a day, but it just shouldn't replace the in-game report system. And for me personally, I don't forward reports if there isn't evidence of it. Usually we just take a name and a match ID, and then I personally ask for evidence of what happened, because there was one time where, this was at the beginning of 2020, there was one time where some guy was like, yo, this guy like called me the N-word all game, and I was like, holy fuck, this guy needs to be kept off the SMITE streets. So I forwarded that, and then some guy from support was like, yo, black guy, this guy like literally didn't say anything wrong. And I was like, oh fuck, I feel bad now because I just wasted his fucking time. So from then on, I started asking for evidence of said, infraction. Was infraction the right word? I fucking hope so. And people don't really like that. I've gotten a lot of hate for asking for evidence when people didn't get them. But like at the same time, sorry, bud, I treat everybody that way. I treat my friends that way. I treat the random people that DM me that way. And I want to kind of go back to something I said earlier. This is essentially the same as us forwarding a report is essentially the same as using a support ticket. And this goes for pretty much anyone that claims they can forward a report. I know there are a couple streamers that do this as well. And I really don't get it when people are like, oh, X streamer banned me for no reason, when they literally do not have the power to ban you. And also there's just this, I don't even know if it's a delusion, but it's just, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? I guess it's a mindset where if you do like the tiniest thing wrong in the wrong person's game, you're going to get banned, when that's not the case at all. When something is brought to the support team, I think it's ridiculous to not think that they are going to look at previous match history as well. This has happened so many times where somebody will come to me and be like, hey, Black Eye, I sent in a support ticket. Do you mind forwarding it? I got banned for no reason. I was playing an arena game. I was just playing Cernunos. I did nothing wrong, and I got banned after the game. So what gives? When that's not the case at all. A lot of people, especially those that try to make this like a big public scene, like, guys, look, I got banned for no reason. Look how bad high-risk support is. They aren't taking into account of things they might have said in previous games. So yes, in the game that you were reported, you might not have done anything wrong, but if it warrants an investigation into your account, they might have found things in previous games that do warrant some form of suspension or ban. And I hate when people say like, oh, well, that's still abuse of power because I did nothing wrong that game, and if I wasn't reported, I wouldn't have been caught. Like, bitch, if you did nothing wrong in the first place, you wouldn't have been caught. People don't get you banned. You got yourself banned. If you truly do nothing wrong playing SMITE, you will not get banned. Plain and simple. I guess the final point I want to touch on is people seem to think that if one person is toxic towards you, you are like allowed to be toxic back. What the fuck? The amount of times where I've literally gotten DMs where somebody was like, oh, this guy, called me a shit can, so I started shit talking him back, and now I'm banned. What the fuck? When one, you don't know if he got banned. The other guy did, unless he has a Twitter, a social media, and talks about it. And two, I don't see how responding to toxicity with toxicity is a valid argument. I'll just never understand how that's valid. If it's a one-off time, then yeah, sure, people get heated, whatever. But if you're just constantly responding to any form of negativity by just being toxic, then yeah, probably deserved. And finally, the last thing I'm going to say, my phone lit up, is that when we forward a report, they don't specifically tell us what happens to the guy that we reported. And that's just because of for the account owner's privacy. So they respect the account owner's privacy, so they don't really tell us what happens. And now this kind of segues into my next topic. I feel like everybody that's ran for an Olympian has had something they wanted to focus on. So I just thought I'd share what I've been focusing on, and the support system has been one of them. I have a very large hate boner for toxic people. I will never understand why people are toxic in video games. General shit talking, yeah, whatever. It happens. It's a competitive sport. But genuine toxicity, I will never understand, and I just despise it. It just, we play SMITE to have fun, and people that are toxic ruin that fun. So I've been, edging them look, this is really important. We need to put more emphasis on this, which they have. I'm not saying they haven't. They have, but this leads to my next point. A lot of the community doesn't think that high-res support works. They don't believe the report system works. They don't believe that support is correctly banning people when they genuinely are. They really are. But the community doesn't believe that. So what I've been trying to push for is for high-res to prove that it's working. They've been doing a lot behind the scenes. I've been saying, hey, show what you guys have been doing behind the scenes instead of just like doing it under the radar and then improving it, you know, without telling anybody. And something that I'm sure every Olympian has learned is that if something is like perceived one way, that might as well just be the reality of it, because it doesn't really matter what the reality is if nobody believes it. And then the second thing, I can make a whole video on this. I've been really trying to push rank crossplay, especially recently. So for those that don't know, if you queue with a controller, you are thrown into one queue. Whereas if you queue with a mouse and keyboard, you are thrown in a completely separate queue. They all have they have different like leaderboards. So you can have 2 different MMRs based on what input you're using. There is a workaround for this though, which I talked about previously. You can queue mouse and keyboard with a controller. I've been doing that, but I really want them to merge it. Again, I'm not trying to like argue, or I guess I am, but at the same time, I'm not going to go into detail about why I think it should be merged. That's just something I've been pushing for. So the next section, before I started recording, I made a Twitter thread asking what people wanted to see from a video like this. I announced I was going to make a video like this. I asked what people wanted to see. And a big one was tips for people wanting to be an Olympian. So I talked about the time commitment. I'll briefly go over it again. A lot of people are concerned they wouldn't have enough time for it. It's just what you make out of it. You know, again, I spend 20, 30 minutes a day. On meeting days, I spend closer to 2 hours because we have a meeting, but that's only once a month. Other Olympians do more, other Olympians do less. It's just depends on what you make of it. Second tip, you need to be prepared to have a strong mental because you will deal with a lot of idiots. And when I say idiots, I mean people that have stupidly high expectations of you. For example, I can't remember, I have countless times where I've disagreed with a point of feedback and somebody said, well, it doesn't matter if you disagree, just do your job and forward it anyway. So yeah, stuff like that. And then also people that just give, to put it bluntly, bad suggestions, and then they're like being genuine and you have to try and explain to them why it's a bad suggestion. My favorite one was somebody told me that like Kumbhakarna is out of the meta. I bet if we made his mesmerize into a stun, that would bring him back in the meta. And I was like, yes, but no. Kumbhakarna is bad, but we should buff him like that. There are other ways to buff him. And this guy was like being completely serious. He was like, no, this is great suggestion. I'm like, whoa, all right. We could buff Kumbhakarna. Let's not get a little bit drastic here. So yeah, just be prepared to deal with the occasional idiot every now and then. The last tip I have, and again, talked about it somewhat previously, but I'll go more in depth, is to be open-minded. Pretty much every day, there will be some form of debate or just like discussion going on in the Olympian Discord. And more than likely, there's going to be more than one side to it. And if you are unable to, at the very least, try to see the other person's side, then you are going to have a rough time being an Olympian, dog. Because there are times where 2 people, like let's say 2 Olympians or a dev and an Olympian, have 2 completely opposing sides to a discussion, but both sides are like perfectly valid. And it's just important to understand that to be like, I guess, successful in a sense, you need to be able to look at the other side and understand where they're coming from. Okay, the last thing I wanted to go over were a few criticisms people have had on the Olympian program as a whole, and then just give my rebuttal to it, because I have heard a lot of shit over the years, man. Is my camera out of focus? It is out of focus. All right, we're pogging now. The first one, I hear this a lot, and this is normally just from toxic people, but people are like, oh, Olympians don't do anything. Olympians are useless, which is just false. Every single year, they've made an Olympian recap like page on their website, which has basically listed quite literally every single change that Olympians have had influence in. So you could probably find that with a quick Google search. On top of this, on every patch notes, there's a little Olympian icon next to suggestions we have either pitched or influenced. And then on top of that, they might not do this publicly. I know Ajax has done this publicly, but a lot of them thank us pretty consistently. I've even heard like somebody's messaging me and like, hey, yeah, one of the devs like shout out the Olympians at this meeting, like props to you guys, go you. So I think people just say Olympians don't do anything because they like didn't get what they want, or they're just intentionally trying to be toxic. I don't think there is any person that genuinely thinks Olympians do nothing. Another criticism I'll see is I think X person is a bad representative of the community. And then they sometimes just default to like, oh, they should immediately get kicked out of the program, when what they did to warrant that opinion isn't even like super bad. Obviously, I'm not going to name any names, but I'm sure everybody, I'm not, look, guys, I'm not trying to take some moral high ground here. I don't think I'm better than anybody morally. I fuck up. Other Olympians have fucked up. Shit happens. But some people do like to, or some community members do like to take it over the top and just, oh, what this person did was fucking awful. They should be kicked from the program. The most common one, or the two most common ones I see are like, oh, this Olympian was rude to me. And like, yeah, we probably should be very careful about what we say to people, but at the same time, we're our own person. We do not represent high-res. We are simply a bridge between the community. And like, yeah, I totally get it. I'd be also very concerned if somebody that was elected as a community representative did something that, was toxic, that did something that seemed like they were trying to abuse what little power they had. We really don't have that much power, man. I don't know why people throw around the term abuse of power. Again, we can't personally ban people. We can't personally force suggestion or force updates into the game. There is so little power. And when I say little power, I mean like direct power. Like obviously we have influence, but there's like literally zero way to abuse it. But like, I get it, man. It's just important to understand that, one, I think unless they actually do something really fucked up, which I don't think any Olympians have, I think it's incredibly delusional to immediately jump the gun and just say, oh, they should be kicked from the program. And two, it's not like we aren't getting talked to and things like that. Personally, I've been talked to one time about something extremely minor that I said, and all they said was like, yo, man, might want to avoid this. Again, it wasn't major at all. I still can't believe I had to be talked to about it, but it was super minor. And, just because like I'm not here, or like people like Hi-Res isn't announcing, oh, we gave him a stern talking to, we wiggled our finger in his face, and now he won't be doing any wrongdoing anymore. Just because they don't say things like that just doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Usually when somebody on the Olympian program fucks up, they just get talked to privately, and then whether they want to reveal that or not is on them. So just keep that in mind. Second thing is that some community members get angry when an Olympian doesn't seem like they're doing anything, which I just don't understand how they could know whether they're doing stuff or not, because they're just assuming that activity on social media correlates with what they're doing behind the scenes. So some people are like, oh, this guy's inactive on social media, that means he's doing nothing, which isn't true at all. You can't see their DMs. You don't know how many messages they get daily. And you also don't have insight into the Olympian Discord. So just because they aren't active or on social media for a period of time doesn't mean they aren't doing things behind the scenes. Finally, the last criticism is the Olympian program is a popularity contest. This one pisses me off, man. The main thing that makes me mad is that no one discusses the positives of the Olympian program being a popularity contest, and nobody gives alternative solutions that are reasonable. The only solution I've seen to it being a popularity contest is that it should be application-based, which, in my opinion, has more issues than it being a popularity contest. And it's funny because when people are like, oh, it's a popularity contest, and I ask them, do you know who the Olympians are? They only say the popular ones, or the people that are more popular than others. And I'm like, okay, so if you had an issue, who would you go to? The popular ones. Crazy how that works. It's just frustrating because the way people word this, it's like they'd rather not have an Olympian program at all because it's a popularity contest. When, yes, it has flaws. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the best candidate for the position I ran for. I'm not going to say other Olympians are the 100% best candidate for the position they run for. But at the same time, alternative solutions have even more issues, in my opinion. Okay, well, that's going to be it for me. I might make edits here and there to this video because I've been sitting in my chair recording for 50 minutes. But yeah, I'm willing to answer questions if you have any. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/dbyakai. I am very active on Twitter. I tweet every day. I probably tweet too much. Be SMITE. And yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.